This is the same thing which I just mentioned, the Superman syndrome. I am the executioner. I know best. I can do anything. I can lift up a bus that is of 500 tons. Keep monitoring them and letting go of the control. And within the time, you will see that you are not a Superman. Being a founder does not mean that you have to fix everything. You have to enable people to fix the problems. You cannot keep covering every single thing. You will have to fail at some point, because failing also is an opportunity itself. If you start working on every single items every single day, it will not work. Three items: what are the most critical, what are the most important, what needs to be worked on right now. You follow the idea of definition of ready and the definition of done. You actually cut down a lot of noises.
We fail to acknowledge the most critical parts, which is the customer.
He or she is trying to do super many things at one time, trying to automate every single thing and trying to deliver every single thing at the same time. Strip away the idea of roles. You are the product manager, you are the developer, or you are the executioner. I do a small reflection at the end of the day. What I have done, achieved in this day, what I can do tomorrow better. Naive. He was also making sure that I understand the problem, I take control, and obviously he was worried that this thing could have, gone into a bigger problem.
Welcome to FlowMax AI podcast, and I'm here with a special guest that is a Scrum Master, and he's going to talk about systems, mindset, and how we could execute. And here we are. I have Ali. Ali, thank you for being in my show. How's it going?
Thank you, Justin, for calling me here. It's been going pretty good. It's been a good, bright morning here, so it's a good start of the day.
All right, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I can see that it's bright there, and it's pretty awesome. Let's start to dig in about you, and let's talk about you first so that our audience will have a context on how you can walk us through about systems, mindset, and also the execution. Can you tell me and share with our audience how did you come and arrive in this destination right now?
It's a pretty interesting journey for me, honestly. When I started my personal, professional career, I started off with the project management kind of work. I was working in that kind of mindset where I was also kind of a small co-founder of an organization, as well as working as a project manager, project coordinator. And after about working in that project management field, I started to realize one thing about myself, about my personality, is I am not a directive person. I do not like telling people what you have to do. I was always more considered, okay, if you are doing something, let me support you one way, or let me help you one way. And during the whole this execution, this mindset that was bothering me, that I'm not a directive person, I'm not a teller. Around that time, Scrum was getting a little bit more hype in the project management field, especially in the software industry. So I just looked at the content of the Scrum Mastery, what Scrum says, what Agile says, and I just picked up and took one certification. Since then, I have never looked back. Since then, I started working in the overall mindset of how Scrum is applied in the software development field, how to work with the teams, become a facilitator, become an enabler rather than a directive person. I actually was doing a small test with my own team. I had a team of about 5, 7 people, and I was assigned with them as a project manager. And when I was working with them, I did a small experiment that instead of telling them what to do, I started asking, what do you want to do today? How can I help you to make sure that your work goes up ahead? That actually changed quite a lot for me, because I saw that my team members were quite knowledgeable, experienced themselves to take care of every single work item, and I did not have to do much telling to them. And even more interesting for us in that scenario was that after the 5, 6 hours of working together, we would also get a chance to go downstairs. We would either play pool table or we will go for some foosball. And I started to see that, okay, I am not a manager anymore. They consider me as a friend, but when there is a time to come towards the delivery, they also consider their own responsibility. And that was one of my first most successful projects. So that mindset shift change threw me into the whole place of, okay, Scrum Mastery is a field that actually resonates with me very well. And that happened maybe, I would say, 5, 6 years ago. And since then, I have been more into the journey of learning how Scrum Mastery, how Agile, and coaching are very much fundamental for the organizations, or for me at least, on the personal level, to grow and move up ahead.
All right, wonderful. That's a great journey. And Ali, just for the benefit of our audience, most of our audience are not really tech experts. And just to kind of give a brief background about what Scrum means.
Okay, so before Scrum, I would actually go into a little bit of what Agile is. Because Agile is kind of the main foundation, main building block that actually supports Scrum and other Agile frameworks. So, if I say it very simply, Agile is itself an adjective. That means you have to be swift, you have to be responsive to the changes, you have to be fast, you have to be adaptable. So these are the few qualities of being agile means. And what does it tell us? That agile is a shift in your mindset, in your approach, that you have to be very much aware of what's happening around you, how the world or the market is changing, what you can do personally and professionally to keep yourself adaptable, to make sure that you keep working and going along with the world and the changes that are happening outside. So on the basis of that, there have been some big names who came up with the whole overall methodology of agile, that talked about these simple processes, that be reflective, be responsive, be fast, be quick, think about the customer, simplicity. So they talked about those things. So Agile became a very basic foundation for all of the other frameworks like Scrum or Kanban. So when I talk about Scrum, Scrum actually is built on the similar values which I just described on the level of Agile. Scrum is trying to make sure that when we are working in a very complex environment, when there is uncertainty assigned with it, how do we execute our work? How do we plan? How do we execute? And how do we make sure that we are delivering the right value to the customer, and we are also making sure that the persons or the people who are working in the overall process, they have the say, they have the authority, they have the power to also say that, okay, this thing worked for us, this is the value that was delivered, and this was the response, but this is the outcome, that how do we want to make sure that we keep delivering up to the level that we want to deliver. So Scrum provides a framework to that. Scrum talks about certain roles, certain events that are happening, certain artifacts within the overall process. When I talk about the roles, it talks about the main people who are part of the team, starting from the development team or the people who are executing the work, product manager or the product owner who actually gives what vision do you want to deliver around a product. Then there is a scrum master, that is probably me, or the one who actually is making sure that the process stays going properly in flow. So these are the roles. When we talk about the events, is majorly around how do we plan, how do we do the daily check in about the work, understanding what are the blockers on the daily basis and how we can solve them. And the other two events that we talk about is majorly reviewing the work that we have done in last one small iteration. It could be 1 week to 1 month, the work that we have done and delivered. If the customer that is sitting on this side of us, is he or she is happy about the work that we have done, the requirements they had given to us, are they properly meeting? And when all of this thing is done, we take a step back, look the work that we have done, the time we have spent together, that okay, what are the best points that we have done? Did we talk to each other properly? Did we make sure that we were following the right process? Did we have the right vision? Did we have the right requirements? And see where there can be improvement done. Because Agile talks about being reflective, being adaptable. And this actually gives us a chance that just look back and see how we can improve ourselves. So we can either stay relevant and we can still deliver the best quality work to the end user.
That was very comprehensive at the beginning. That's pretty awesome. So you're giving us a very much context about three frameworks and you mentioned about Scrum, Agile, and as well as Kanban. So, if we were to kind of compare all three, and with your experience as a Scrum Master, what is the best effective way if we're going to apply this into a small medium business, and where is the best way to apply this? And you mentioned about project management and also execution, so can you share a little bit more about how we can apply there?
Okay, the interesting thing is Agile provides us a foundation. So any framework that you pick, either it be Kanban or a Scrum or anyone, either it could be extreme programming, it could be someone else, someone that I can't remember one of the other names. You can pick up Safe. It The whole thing is that Agile provides us the foundation. So every single principle which is outlined by Agile is being within Scrum or Kanban. So when do we have to pick either Kanban or Scrum or some other framework? It depends on the nature of the project or the product or the feature that we are trying to deliver. So one of the best use cases I always use over here is that if you want to deliver something as an MVP, what is the best process to do that? The MVP talks about the minimum viable product. The minimum viable product talks about that, okay, yeah, this is something that I want to deliver to make sure that my test or my product actually is very much suitable to the end customer. So it has to be properly planned. It has to be make sure that we cut down the complexities into the simpler amount of work, and then we start doing a small execution and we deliver the work. So what it actually reflects is the talk about overall the process of Scrum. So Scrum, in a simpler way, is telling you to reduce the complexities by following these processes or these steps or methods. So with any small thing which is complex, there is uncertainty at the very end becomes the part of following the Scrum. But on the other hand, Kanban is on a different tangent altogether. Kanban can also you can also use the idea of MVP delivering this way or having an uncertain complex item to be delivered following Kanban, but Kanban has a very specific use case. And that use case is that if you know that what you have to deliver and you have been delivering that work item constantly for many years. For example, if you are trying to create a process to create an ice cream, you know that what are the steps required to do make an ice cream cone. So you already have the idea what are the main ingredients will be the part of the ice cream. You will have to pick up the cone, you will have to pick up the scoop, you will have to put it on top of the ice cream cone. Then you will make sure that you wrap it up in a small tissue paper and then hand it over to the customer. So we know every single step. So Kahneman actually tells us that follow a flow. There is a flow of working of some of the items which actually bind together. So just in case I pick up the scoop first, and as I'm looking forward, okay, where is the cone? It will disrupt the flow. So we have to identify that in the flow, what items come first, what item comes next, second, and what comes after that, to make sure that you keep it simple. And secondly, on the similar value or similar thought of flow, you have to limit the work that you are trying to do. So if I have one single person and I have to execute every single thing, I will not take multiple items to work on at the same time because I will be confused if I deliver this item or if I deliver this item. So focusing on the flow and putting a limit on work that you are working on, or simply we call it work VIP, that is, sorry, WIP, work limit in progress. So you can have to simply see what are the value or what kind of product or the work that we are delivering and then make use of either Scrum or Kanban.
You make it sound so simple, and it's amazing how Scrum, Agile, and Kanban has been very complex in the marketplace as a perception. And if any entrepreneur, most entrepreneur, if they are small or medium, they do have some limitations too to apply these frameworks or concepts. Do you think that it's also the mindset of system thinking of how you can systemize the business. How would it affect to a smaller medium business, whether they're going to apply the frameworks, whichever of the three, or let's talk about like if they don't apply it. Do you have any kind of contrast between if you apply it or you don't apply it? What are the pros and cons in your opinion?
You know, in the beginning, I mentioned that I also was kind of a co-founder of a small organization.
Mhm.
So when I had delved into the whole process, I did not know what to do. I had no idea. I just said, okay, I want to deliver that product. That was the whole idea that I had. I was trying to reach out to evangelists. I was trying to talk to some of the developers. I had a couple of developers along with me. I had no vision with me. And I was trying to do all of those things in parallel. So for an individual person or a very small team, this process actually either adapting Agile or Kanban is quite useful. So the first thing you have to understand is that what are the basic concepts of Agile? Like I said, it has to be what is important you have to deliver. Agile says that customer collaboration or customer delivery is the most important and critical thing. So understand what customer says, what is needed. It does not have to be that you grab every single data point at the customer, but have at least one single small data point with the customer, okay, what he or she wants. Then understand those things and keep it simple. You do not have to deliver every single value item to the customer right away. So if it comes across that there are five value items that we have to deliver, pick up the most critical one. What is the most valuable item right now to deliver to the customer? When that actually item has been identified, work in an iterative manner or incremental manner. Iterative or incremental is in a simpler way that define a small time limit that you have to be able to work on this work item for 1 week or 2 week or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Define those things and start working on that thing. So now what you are doing is picking up the items, cutting it down, trying to execute that thing and keeping it simple. So you have to just follow these small simple steps, because when you actually are going to deliver to the customer, you will see that if it did deliver the value or not. And this actually comes in the point of the scrum, that it gives you an idea of that you review with the customer, you provide a demo with the customer, and if that customer says that yeah, this thing actually has been valuable for me, keep it on the same thought, then you actually get a verification right away within 1 to 2 or 3 weeks time. You do not have to reinvent the whole wheel all over again. So you deliver one item, then you look, okay, yeah, this is a second item I can pick, verify with the customer, and then start working in the similar simple process. Start delivering on those things. And in the overall process, when I also said that after 2 3 weeks, you also get a chance to look back what I have done well, what I had did not do well, what are the improvement points that I can take out of these things. So there is a reflection happening. All of these things, as much as they are part of the Agile, they are also integrated within the Kanban and within the Scrum. So you are looking at overall process, making sure that you deliver iteratively, incrementally, making it keeping it simple, and making sure that whatever you deliver has been a value to the customer. And if I
Mhm.
put it in a very simplistic way, for one single person, you have to consider yourself as a work package. You do not have to consider yourself as a role. When you consider as yourself as a work package, that you are the one who has to deliver all of these things, you can follow the similar same process or same path. I did not do these things myself. I was trying to do every single thing at once. And that is why after about 1.5 years of trying, I failed. And
Mm.
I did not get a chance to reflect back at that time. But now when I look at myself or the work that I was trying to do back then, I realized that yes, I should have kept it simple. I should have understood the customer, not the idea that in my head, because in my head the idea sounded super amazing, that it will make sure that every single one will be wowed with the product, but it did not. because I was not thinking about the end user. I was thinking about, yeah, this idea is super beneficial for me. So having customer, making sure that you work incrementally or iteratively, deliver, get the feedback from the customer, improve and adapt.
That's beautiful. Beautiful flow of framework and sequence. And yes, customer centric is really the key. When you're building something, whether it's a product, a company, or a solution, it has to go back to the customer, the user, the end user, as what you've used, right? And you know what, Ali, the thing about right now, we are at the age of AI, and this is where it gets noisy. When I say noisy, I'm talking about there's so many information that even us will be able to grasp the critical information that we can apply. So if you're going to be probably talking to an entrepreneur who is very distracted with chaos, and what is the one practical shift that helps them to move from having the chaos to clarity?
Okay, so chaos can be interpreted into multiple ways in my head. The first is that he or she is trying to do super many things at one time. That is the first thought that is coming. And second thought that is that he or she is trying to automate every single thing and trying to deliver every single thing at the same time. So in that scenario, what happens usually is that you lose the idea or you lose the thought that what actually delivers value. And in this scenario, we understand, okay, what delivers value. And then we also forget one thing. We try to do every single thing right away rather than understanding what is the need behind it, this thing. So there are two very basic concepts which I really like to adapt whenever I work either with myself or with the teams. The two concepts actually talk about definition or defining what is ready for me to pick it up, start working on that item. The reason is that since it's a very abrupt time, we actually look at any work item and we say, okay, let's deliver this thing. But how are you certain about any work item to be delivered that it is ready to be worked on first? So you have to define a simplistic criteria or definition that if a work item or a feature or a product has this many features, either it has a business value, either it has an end goal, either it has some some basic requirements that it needs to have, it is understood completely by me as an executioner every single step, or if it is understood by the team of 1 to 2 people every single thing, then it is considered to be ready. Then it can be taken into the overall flow of execution. So that actually having to understand what is ready. Otherwise there will be 50 items you will have, and all of those 50 items either will be important, will be
Mhm.
critical, will have value. But out of those 50 items, which one do you understand better? Which one you
Mm.
are certain that you will be able to deliver? So you have to think from that perspective. If anything is ready, I can make sure that it gets delivered. Then, having the understanding of defining the ready, you also have to define what is done. So, if I compare the ready and done, the done actually tells me I have delivered the value, I have delivered all the requirements, I have delivered all of these checks, because obviously you have to make sure that quality is there. You have to make sure that customer is responding to the whole product or the feature or the work item. You have to see that it actually went through the overall process. It has been verified from 1, 2, 3 checks, either through the customer or through the development team or through anyone else. But it has to be make sure that it is that definition of done is. So when you follow the idea of definition of ready and the definition of done, you actually cut down a lot of noises that is around that I have to deliver 50 work items, but out of 50, 5 are important or 5 are critical, and out of 5, 3 are ready to be delivered. And when you reach to the done level, you actually make sure that there is a proper funnel that's happening, that are cutting down a lot of distractions up there.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many distractions all around. And imagine like nowadays, like we have so many tabs on our windows, and we are kind of kind of maneuvering in like which one's important. And then we're also playing with AI, like, okay, I have this chat with ChatGPT, and then I have open another window, and I have different topics, different thoughts, and then all the thoughts that were gold, you were kind of losing it because you have so many tabs. I can imagine this as what you just mentioned about, like, you have so many activities, you have so many tasks in your project, but which one is really critical, which one is important, which one is a priority. So that is very critical on what you just shared with us, so that we can follow that framework. And if we're gonna talk about this, Ali, like you mentioned about like a team one or two, like, and nowadays there's this concept about a $1 billion company with a team of one. What does Scrum look like when you're a team of one?
What does Scrum look like when you're a team of one person? So,
Yeah, so if you want to apply Scrum, like
mhm,
systemize the company, what would that look like if you're only one in the
hmm.
team or the company?
I had talked about Scrum earlier. I talked about there are some roles, some events, and some artifacts around that. So when you are a team of one, the first thing that you do, strip away the idea of roles. You are the one person, you are the product manager, you are the developer, or you are the executioner, and you are the one who is making sure that everything goes through the process. So, but when you strip down the role, you have to think about what work has to be delivered. So, create a small prioritized list of items that you want to deliver. Create that list, see what is ready. There are one, two, three items could be ready. You pick it up, you plan, okay, I will work on this work item first, the second item on the second time, and third item, and then I will create a whole package and I will deliver. So, what you are doing a small planning for yourself that yes, this is work item I have to deliver in in an iteration of 1 to 2 or 3 weeks. So in Scrum, what we call this iteration as sprints. So sprint can be of 1 week or 2 weeks up to 4 weeks. So define a small iteration time, define what you want to deliver, and then start executing. So that actually goes through the product backlog development as well as sprint planning. Every single day when you start your work, do a check-in. The check-in actually tells you to look what you have delivered, what you are working right now. So if I am on the work package number two, I will make sure that yes, I understand the work package number two. Does it have any dependencies? Is there anything significant that can stop me? And if none of those things are there, think about the work package two again, that what work I have to deliver. This is a very small activity, just 5 to 10 days, 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of activity, so that you can actually plan your work item that you have to deliver. So, first, we have done through the sprint planning. Now we come towards the execution or daily check in. After the daily check in, we make sure that we execute the work, and we also are concerned connected with our end user. So when the iteration gets completed, we talk to the customer. Yeah, this is what I have done. Do you like it? Do you not like it? The requirements that you had delivered, are they fulfilling or not? So consult with the customer, give it a demo after the iteration completion or the sprint completion. And when all of this thing is done, you already are developing the next backlog or the next work items, because Scrum also says that when you are executing the current work items in in an iteration of 2 weeks, you also have to take 30 minutes or maximum an hour out of your time within 2 weeks time to plan what is going to come up next. Because what usually happens that when we go into the execution mode, we do not look that okay, how the new changes are coming in, since this is a world of AI, everything is changing so much rapidly. The value that you will deliver might get delivered very well, but it might have an impact, or something that is outside is changing, it might also impact the upcoming work items. So what you simply do is take a look on the backlog that we have delivered for the next work items, spend 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. Make sure that those are ready with respect to the definition of ready that you have delivered, you have created for yourself. And simply making sure that when you are done with delivering the customer, reflect back. I did this thing well. I did this thing not well. This can be improved. Use those improvement items into the planning of next work item or next sprint. It will be very much
Mm,
more easy if I could visualize it in a simpler way, if there was something that actually is as a diagram up here. But yes, I'm trying to create a visualization around it. So yes, but it is kind
yes.
of again following a flow, making sure that you follow simple basic events and
Hmm.
consider yourself as an executioner, consider yourself as a planner, consider yourself as the one who has to go in front of the customer. And also you have to make sure that when you are doing all of those things, you have to reflect back to make sure that you
Yes.
learn from a small project of maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. You can call it a project as well, but what you have learned from this overall delivery or execution experience.
Yeah, that's a great visualization that you just shared. And also, if you have some visualization tools or materials, feel free to give it to me. And then we can also include it in the video as well so that our audience can visualize it even much more clear if you have, right? That would
Yeah,
be great.
sure. I can send you the links later as well. There are a lot of good material out there, but
Hmm.
I will simply be very much honest one thing. There is a lot of noise, a lot of irrelevant articles or information available out on the internet too. So when you are looking either on the Agile, on the Scrum, on Kanban, just refer to the main official websites, official links up there. That's it. Do not go and look into every single item, just the official ones.
Okay. All right. That's a great advice. And Ali, I think there's something critical that you just shared earlier that you failed when you were launching your own startup before and you didn't put the user experience or the end user or the customer as the priority. Like if you were to give an advice, like how would you do it differently now if you were to start again with a new product, new idea, a new startup, or if you're already in the middle of starting up something, but you don't have that clarity yet, like how would you approach it differently now that you have learned that you failed into something? How will you do it differently?
When I was doing it before, I had a very good idea around that time, and it was, I could see that it had a value. What it was lacking was the customer input. I did not know that what customer know or what customer wanted, because I had seen that okay, this idea is actually working in this part of the world, or this idea will work on this part of the world. So I should also been working in my part of the world. But I did not look at the customer. So I have to consult with at least one ideal customer. Then, second thing is that I have to identify those things, and I have to also let go of the Superman syndrome. The Superman syndrome is simply that I am the one who has to deliver every single thing, but I also have to rely on many data points or many people who will be part of the execution. So I have to let go the control of making in a way that the people, either it be customer, either it be the executioner, either it be the planner, they have better knowledge than me. I can come up with a vision, I can come up with a small idea, but either unless and until customer tells me that yeah, this is critical, I will not execute it, that item. My idea might be good, but it has to refer back to the problem the customer is facing. So that is one thing. And second thing is that making sure that I have a flow of work. The things which I already have defined, that having a small understanding of definition of ready, definition of done, work in limit progress, small iterative process, work on a small MVP, refer back to the customer if it is yeah, if it is good or not, and then work on improving that thing day by day, rather than building a huge package at once. Making sure that I consult with the customer every single 2, 3, 4 weeks, so that I can be certain I am delivering value. If something is not good enough for delivering the value, I can change the work package, I can adapt it, I can remove that thing, but I will simply be losing, not losing is not the right word, but I will simply be losing 2 to 3 weeks of effort, not the whole 4 months or 5 months worth of effort. So cost of me losing up there is very less as compared to if I do that on a higher level.
Yeah, that's very profound. I think there's a lot of people who are, especially entrepreneurs, we are so enthusiastic. We're so excited about our idea and just wanted to go
Yeah.
there, right? And we
Yes,
we
right
we
away.
fail
Right.
to we fail to acknowledge the most critical parts, which is the client, the customer, and what
Yes.
are the problem that we're solving as well as what you mentioned. Like, just make it simple and follow the process, and not be the Superman syndrome that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like,
Everything.
yes, yes, we wanted to control like everything, right? And it's actually the opposite to make it even more efficient.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, awesome, and that's wonderful. So far in this podcast, like, you have given so much gems, so much value, and let's go about how do you talk about the identity shift when you were a founder and with a Scrum Master, on how to really make a product, a a solution to be as much successful as we can to execute it. So we're going to go deep into much more of the mindset. So if we're going to talk about what mindset trap do most entrepreneurs or founders fall into when they try to scale?
This is the same thing which I just mentioned, the Superman syndrome. I am the
Mhm.
executioner. I know best. I can do anything. I can lift up a bus that is of 500 tons. So that actually is one of the bigger issues that actually traps that actually founders go into, that they are, since the whole product, the vision or the idea that they're trying to deliver is kind of their baby child. So they become so much, close to the heart. You actually become so much protective of that idea that you cannot see that this can be delivered in a different way. And that actually becomes the bottleneck of the biggest sort. First, you have to let go of that, Superman syndrome. The reason is that as much as you have the idea, you have the worth, you understand everything, there are better people who execute things very well. I came up with the idea, but I'm not good at execution. Understand this thing. Ask yourself, what are you doing? So there is a proper coaching mindset. Coaching actually tells you to ask yourself or ask others some powerful questions to enable yourself to change, create a shift in yourself, and to make sure that you work on the potential that you have rather than doing everything. I know myself that I am good at making sure that process works smoothly, or I am good at creating the ideas and putting them into requirements. Knowing your value, your worth, what I am good at. That is the first question that you have to ask. I know what I can do. Second thing is that how can I enable people that are working along with me? Because you cannot follow the Superman syndrome. You cannot deliver everything. You have to let go of the control. You do not have to do the micromanagement. How you can enable people? Start delegating the work to some of the work people who are working along with you, either it be execution, either it be planning, either it be delivery, anything that actually can be delegated. Mentor people along with you, either it be one person or two-person. Mentor them, tell them what is the process, ask them their feedback. What do you think can be improved? What can we do differently? How else we can make sure that this work can be done differently? So if you listen to the things that I'm saying, those are questions which are actually asking, what, how am I able to create value? What is the value that can be delivered? How can I empower people? So these are specifically some powerful questions. You can also look on internet. There will be a very huge list of powerful questions that actually puts you in a situation when you start asking yourself some deep down thoughts. Coaching goes into the values, into the level of values and beliefs and identity. So understand those things and simply start delegating, mentoring people, and making sure that when you are doing this thing, keep monitoring those things. If something does not go as expected, does not mean that the other person is not executing them 100%. They are doing their best as of now. It's just that they will take some time to get to that level. You have done those things maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months or years, and they started just right now. How you were in the initial months. You were not delivering to 100%. You were delivering at the value of maybe 20%. But you did not have a mentor, they have a mentor. So if they are going to deliver for the first at 70%, that is a win. Consider that thing as a win. Keep monitoring them and letting go of the control. And within the time, you will see that you are not a Superman. You will see that there is some other things that they can do differently that will have more value, or that will be more simpler as compared to what you were doing. Because when you usually what happens is that when you are in within one process or one system, you are so much attuned to that system that you cannot think outside of the box. And the person who is just coming into the system, they have some other experience, some other knowledge, some other thoughts, so they can maybe improve it in a different way. As a founder, you have to first let go of the first Superman syndrome. Secondly, start asking yourself some powerful questions, making sure that you enable people that are around you and keep monitoring them and celebrate the wins.
That's very well put. So having the delegation, having that clear hands off from being Superman syndrome, from just the delegation master, and also celebrate every wins. So I'm kind of curious about, and I'm sure that we have frameworks, we have process flows, and these are all great, but there's some outliers and there's some exceptions to the rule, right? When you start to have delegation, and have you experienced that you failed in making sure that delegation was smoothly executed? For some reason, it could be the role of the person, or maybe the person that you delegated, or is it the job, or is it whatever the reason is. Like, how did you overcome that when you were experiencing that roadblock?
I will flip the scenario in this one. So I will tell you example of my team lead, my CTO that I was working with. So once what happened that I was coming across a very severe problem. Two people within organization were fighting, and by some chance I was there, and I had no reason to be there with them, but I just got lucky to be with them. And I reached out to my CTO around that time, and I told him that, yeah, this has happened, you have to take care of this thing, so take go and take a look. So, and all of a sudden, instead of him stepping up to the way and start asking questions, he asked me right away, what do you think we should do? I was taken a little bit back. Why you are asking me? I'm not in the place of being, being a do not fight or telling them, okay, just fix your problems. I am not that person, but I was just there by the chance. He started asking me, what do you think we can do? Because he asked me this question because I was at that place at that time. I saw the problem arising up there. He was not there himself. So I was the better judge. I was the better person at that moment to execute that thing. Even though I knew that he would be taking some steps of his own and he did those things, but he asked me, what do you think we do? And he told me that, and the answer I came up with, he told me, go and execute that. I went there, I executed those things. I came back with some other feedback to him. And I told him that, yeah, this is the response I got. I reduced the problem to from this to this. What do we do next? He said, okay, you tell me, what do we do next? And I said, maybe this thing or this thing. And he said, okay, go and do that. But in the meantime, what he was doing, he was also making sure that I understand the problem, I take control. And obviously, he was worried that this thing could have, gone into a bigger problem. But he was monitoring it himself. And after a while, when the problem got reduced, because I could see from this much level, this much lens, but he had a bigger understanding of the problem too. But in this time, he had empowered me to take some relevant actions. Things could have gone wrong, obviously, that's for sure. But giving enabling, empowering me gave me a very good confidence that yes, I actually can do those things. Things will go wrong if someone comes to you and you delegate them the work. Things might go wrong. You might have to come back to the main superman or to the leader over and over again, but
Mm.
that actually is your role right now. Being a founder does not mean that you have to fix everything. You have to enable people to fix the problems. They will do it. They might be not be able to deliver it once or do it once, but they will do it couple of iterations. And after the and in the next situation when a problem arises, they will know that your leader, your founder trusts you enough to take control, fix it, come back to him, and let him know that yeah, this is something I have done.
But
It's a little bit of situation where it's difficult to let go of the control. Delegation is not easy, but you cannot keep covering every single thing. You will have to fail at some point, because failing also is an opportunity itself,
mm,
because you know that one person has what limitation, one person can do what is the value, what is my limitations, so you come across those things.
yes, that's very valuable because when you're on top of the system, which is your company that you are already building, and when you scale, you have to let go of certain things, as you mentioned, and we want to delegate as much as possible so that you can focus on the bigger things, bigger schemes in your company that moves the needle in your own strength, as what we have talked about. So having the delegation, really there's push and pull kind of feeling when you're delegating, and you have this, if you're having this Superman syndrome, in order for you to let go, it's really difficult to let go at the beginning. But having to get that example scenario that you shared, yes, I think from my takeaway from now, from what we have talked about, could be we can let them fail and learn from the process, give them enablement so that we will be less attached, less dependent to the process. And also, as what Scrum and systemizing the business would be, or any project management will be much more effective from there.
That is true, and that also tells you one more thing, that what leadership actually is. When we
Mhm.
think about the leader simply sometimes usually seen as that the person who is executing every single thing or who is telling you every single thing. No, that actually is not a leader, that is a manager. A leader is the one who sets the visions, who enables people,
Mhm.
who is there when you are in a problem and supports you into the process, and making sure that the vision that you all have developed is also shared by the people, and they are executing on the same level as you are. You might have a different responsibility as a leader and as a executioner, but you are sharing the same vision at once. And leader is that person who enables people. That actually is a very huge mindset shift I see outside in the world. There are a lot of people with a lot of good value and work ethics, a lot of talent, but they do not understand the basic difference between what is leadership and what is management. And we always confuse the leadership with management, and we simply pick up, okay, going and telling people do this thing or do that. This also becomes also part of the Superman trap.
Yes, yes, I agree. There's so much misconception about leadership and as a manager, a leader and a manager, and that's clearly being separated from what you shared just now. And I think another curious question is, there's some breakdowns of, and this happens very commonly when someone failed by their role. And the biggest, or probably the natural reaction, if they fail, they will go to the leader to report. And usually what happens is they pass kind of like the responsibility to find an answer or a solution to the problem to the leader. And if you're the leader at that situation, like how would you handle it that you will not be always be bugged or disturbed with this kind of Sometimes it could be big decisions, sometimes it could be small decisions, but at the same time you also want the people who you assign, you delegated to the role, to the specific role, to be also independent thinkers. How would you overcome this situation?
Making sure that how everyone becomes an independent thinker. So you have to be very much aware of your own people. So there is a very, I actually want to very simplify this thing. This is a very deep concept that actually goes into the coaching. The one
Hmm.
simplistic thing is that you have to be a good listener. You have to listen, not just to respond back. You have to listen to people to understand them. So what usually happens that when two people are talking and having a conversation, and one says this thing, the other says the other thing, and you're right away thinking that okay, I will say this thing right now because he said this thing. Maybe it said about one small word on maybe politics or current affairs or something like that, and you start responding back in your head. So what you are doing is you are cluttering your mind with a thought that okay, I will respond back, and you are not listening. So you have to listen and you have to observe people, and that actually is gives you a very good insight about people. So that actually is the, and I when I say this thing, this actually goes into the overall understanding of being a good listener and being empathetic, listening and understanding people. And when you do this thing, you do this thing without judgment. Every single person comes up with their own qualities, every single person comes up with their own capabilities. They have their own quirks and they have some obviously negative traits. Everyone has those. You have to see what are the most critical things, how you can make sure that those are enabled, those are powerful. That is why you have to start asking questions. Powerful questions comes in place again. That what do you need me to support you better? How you can make sure that the work item is delivered properly? What else do you think is the problem? What else can you do about this thing? Because the moment you start asking these questions, what happens? The other person who is at the other end of the questions, who's listening those questions, he or she will tell you from inside that I can maybe do this thing. I can reach out to XYZ person. I can spend some time on creating a new process or a new flow. I can take another route to look at this thing. So they will be coming up with the solutions themselves. So enabling the persons with the right questions, making sure that the solutions that they are working on or that they are coming up with works very well with their values, their capabilities, and their talents. Let them do those things. And if you have some small suggestion or advice, do give on top of that when they ask or when you can recommend something. But they have to be the one who actually has they know how to best use their own powers and capabilities.
That's much clearer in terms of delegation. It's really, there's so many scenarios that would also take your bandwidth as a leader. With that framework, with that set of questions, I think that could also improve the way you delegate, the way you have lesser pull from whatever problem arises or surfaces. Like you will have lesser disturbance when that happens. So great.
I saw two of my leaders do this thing. I do not call them managers, I call them my leaders. I have seen them doing this thing with me, and I am not joking, but there is a huge impact when you are being managed versus when you are being have are led by a proper leader. There is a huge distinction. One, at the management level, you can feel demotivated, and on the other level, on the other side, when you are being led by a leader, you actually feel empowered.
Mm,
So both sides have very quite a huge distinction between them.
exactly. Exactly. All right, more clarity for us and the audience. And let's go and make it simple and let's go with much more of the execution part. So let's talk about what's one system or habit you'd recommend someone who's always busy but stuck with the distractions, stuck with the noise, stuck with a shiny object. What is that one system or habit would you recommend?
I'll keep it simple. A few days back, I was listening to a podcast from the Mr. Wonderful, the Mr. Wonderful
Hmm.
who actually worked with Steve Jobs. And he told Steve Jobs used to follow the simple thing that if you have a day activities of 10 activities, what are the most critical ones?
Mm.
I have one, two, three items. Pick up three items, start working on those things. If you start working on every single items every single day, it will not work. Three items, what are the most critical? What are the most important? What needs to be worked on right now? You don't have to be busy all the time. You have to pick up one small work item. That actually is also the whole concept of Kanban. Put the limit in work in progress. Pick up the most
Hmm.
prioritized item, most critical
Hmm.
item, work on
Hmm.
it, deliver, pick up the next work item. Because I'm one person, I do not have a capacity to work on 50 different levels. I have the capacity of work on one work item at one time. Multitasking does not work. Keep it simple, focus on important critical items, deliver it thoroughly, and then pick up the next item. Do not work on multiple items at once. And just in case, just in this whole scenario, some things that's critical come up. Maybe some bugs happens or some customer call happens or something else happen. You have to step just for a moment back, see how much critical that thing is. If it is super critical, I have to drop everything, then drop everything, work, focus on that, and then come back and start from the place where you had dropped off. But if you see that even though this is quite critical or important, but time box that effort. So out of 8 hours of my day, if something critical came up, maybe I can focus 1 hour of effort. That's it. Time box that activity, time box the effort. Because when you time box it and then you go back, it will be more easy to continue the work that you had just stopped. Otherwise it will become kind of a mounting debt that actually is behind you and you are trying to fix everything.
All right. Wow. Awesome. That's Kevin O'Leary. That's really wonderful. So, yeah, having to have that clarity on what to focus, one, two, three things, and whatever happens within the day, within like critical things for yourself or your company, or it could be personal, right? And at least when you come back, like you know where are you going to go back to, and that's most of the critical things, and that's being efficient, productive, and if you have this really working effectively into this too, the more you can get things done, more critical things done. Awesome. And now, Ali, I think it is a very wonderful episode with you. It's We are already at the top of the hour, which is very quick, but we didn't even think about the time. So let's talk about, in your opinion, like what's the biggest misconception about systems or agile thinking in business?
Very simple. Everyone thinks that agile thinking or system thinking is for bigger organizations, but and it cannot be implemented at the small level or one, two persons level. I don't think that's the situation because what I have said from the beginning, what agile is, keeping it simple, keep it adaptive, responding to the change, do small things incrementally, deliver it, and follow back with the customer. These are the basic things which actually create simplicity. And everyone, either at the professional level or a personal level, can adapt to these things. So, this is just a small mindset shift that has to be adapted within the organizations. That it is not just for the higher, bigger level organizations of 50 people or 200 people or 5,000 people. This can be done at the level of one person or two persons individually. And if I talk about myself personally, I have not just simply adapted the agile mindset in my work life. I have also started doing this thing on my personal level. I do a small reflection at the end of the day. I do a small journaling. Okay, what I have done, achieved in this day, what I can do tomorrow better. I have started those things. And these are the simplistic small things that you can do at the level of yourself or a very small company of 1 to 5 people, that you can keep things simple. you can be adaptive, you can be responsive to the changes, and making sure that you keep focusing on the end customer and the people that are working along with you. So, agile thinking is not for complex organizations. It starts from you and stem into the people who are working along with you.
Yes, it's quite the opposite. It's just the simplicity is the beauty of getting things done.
Exactly.
And that's how beautiful it is. So right now it's we're about to close this podcast, but before we do that, we're gonna have a fun and quick 5 questions, one word answer round. So let's start with the first question. What's one word that describes a great system?
Because a system has to have a proper flow of items which are working on this thing. If you do not have the flow, or you can also that say that as a process, if you do not have those things defined, you will not work it through properly. Anything that can be interrupted and things can fall apart. So having a flow is quite critical.
Yes. Flow, workflow, and also the flow state, right? Of you becoming more productive and efficient. All right, let's go with the second one. One word that describes most founders before they build systems.
Naive.
Why naive? Like, I'm curious.
Because I am putting myself in the place. I did not know so many things. I had a
Uh,
big idea in my head and I wanted to execute, but I did not know what market says. I did not know how work systems work. I did not know how to make it happen. So as of now, the world has changed quite often, quite much. When I started off, there was no AI. It was just simple Google up there, but I did not even know how to execute relevant ideas. I did not have the better understanding. And I was just believing that, yeah, I am the Superman, I can deliver everything. So that was my naivety up there.
wow. Yeah, Superman syndrome, right? So, what's one word that helped you the most in your coaching journey as a Scrum Master?
It's not a word, it's a small question.
Who am I?
Yes.
Why would you choose that over other answers?
Because if I don't know myself, how will I know that what I can deliver or what value I can work on? I have to know myself first to see
Hmm.
what else can I do.
Yes, definitely. One word that every agile business needs to master.
Reflection.
Can you expound more?
Reflection, as in when you are working on something, you deliver it, you do not start working on the next work item right away. Reflect, enjoy your or celebrate your wins, realize your shortcomings, improve them, create a plan to improve them, and then move up ahead. Otherwise, you fall into the trap that I have the perfect process, I have the perfect flow, I have the perfect product. I will keep working, and then somehow, some way, you fall down. So, reflection gives a chance to see what I can do differently or better tomorrow.
Nice. All right. And one word that defines your leadership style.
Enabling.
Can you share more about that style?
So, enabling, as in, there are a lot of people with great ideas, and they have their own values and they have their own strengths. I cannot tell them to adapt my powers, my strengths, because everyone is different. I simply have to make sure that they know of their own powers and they make best use of them. So I have to enable, or a leader has to enable the people they are working with to make sure that they make best use of their powers or their capabilities. I cannot control their powers. And the moment you start doing that, you're actually going into a false trap.
Yes, enabler. Beautiful. And the last but not least, if you had to start over from scratch as either a solo founder, a solo entrepreneur, or you have a small team as a startup, what would you build or focus on first?
If I start over again and build something new, then there are a couple of things I would consider. First is having an ideal customer with me whose problem I'm trying to solve, and having a small way forward so that I can way forward as a flow or a process that actually will help me execute that ideal customer problem, and then validating that thing throughout a small MVP or a minimum viable product, not the whole solution, not the overall arching product, a small solution, a small feature, or even a simple, what's the word? I can't, where there are simply interactive designs, but not the whole functionality. I have forgotten the word, but it is wireframes, a small wireframe, just to make sure that the customer is able, problem is properly handled or understood, and getting a feedback from the customer.
Beautiful. Awesome. So thank you, Ali, for being our guest here in FlowMax AI podcast. And thank you for watching this episode. And if you have any comment, if you find this valuable, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment and share this to a fellow entrepreneur or a future proof leader who wants to scale their business into the next level with the best practices right now. And I'll see you on my next video.